going to zero and it's fake?
Bitcoin itself is a hyped up fraud.
But I would not touch crypto in a million years.
In the ever-evolving world of finance, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have ridden a roller coaster of public perception. From the frenzied Bitcoin bubble of 2017 to the startling headlines about FTX fraud and Binance money laundering. Yet, amidst the tumultuous waves of skepticism and scandal, a resilient chorus has emerged. Voices like Jim Cramer's boldly declare,
This thing is, you can't kill it.
Today we find ourselves at a crossroads, curious and cautious, seeking clarity in a world brimming with digital promise. To guide us through this labyrinth of ledgers and tokens, we've invited Lucas Rubix, the visionary founder of CryptoLabs Research. Join us as we embark on a journey to demystify digital assets, uncover the mechanics of crypto and DeFi, and explore how they're reshaping the landscape of finance. For those that are new to this world, can you explain cryptocurrency in general, but then also why is it that you believe in it so much?
Cool. Yeah, I think this has been the hardest business I've had to build because crypto and scam are kind of anonymous. Like the two kind of go hand in hand. And when I built this business, we did all the traditional ads and funnels, and it did not convert because rightfully so, people don't trust some dude on the internet. So I'm like, we got to go the organic route. So I've gotten a lot of time to like try and educate people on what crypto is and build that trust, not in me, but just in the space as a whole. So I'd say 95% of the crypto space is kind of irrelevant. It's not actually changing anything. I fell in love with crypto and DeFi, especially during COVID and mass inflation. I was running a business at the time. We were making a ton of cash. I didn't know where to park it. I knew inflation was running wild. And I donated to something called the Truckers Convoy here in Canada because I liked what they were doing. I'm like, let's go. I used to work on the oil rig, so I know that crowd. And when the banks started saying, we're going to freeze accounts. And I donated personally and corporately. So my personal bank account and my corporate account donated to the Truckers Convoy. And when the news was saying we're tracking down the people who, and it was a legal protest, we're going to track down the people who donated and we're going to shut down your bank account or shut down access, I started moving a lot of my money onto the blockchain. At the time, mostly in stablecoin and Bitcoin and ETH because I understood those. I wanted custody of my wealth, no matter how small or big that is. I wanted custody of what was mine, so to speak. So that's when I started taking, I was buying Bitcoin back in the day, but that's when I started taking it really seriously and actually started studying what blockchain actually is and what the actual, like what crypto is. And at the end of the day, it's a big ass decentralized ledger where you actually own your assets and no one can take it from you. That's the easiest way I know how to explain it. And within that, there's different technologies that are built that you can make decisions on what you want to invest in and how you want to do it. So that to me was just like, it's like people call money freedom paper and they wave their dollars around being like, this is freedom paper. But if it can be shut down, more can be printed, it can be taken, your bank accounts can be shut down. We just ordered a new corporate visa for one of the employees and I had to sign all this paperwork, and in it was like, basically for any reason we see fit, we can shut down your accounts and you can't, and I was like, I'm signing this right now. And it's a necessary evil. And I don't even think banks are evil. They're just, you use them and don't get used by them. But that's when crypto and DeFi started making little neural connections in my brain of like, this is actually something that people actually need. Let me weed through all the crap out there and let me find the stuff that's actually potentially going to make a difference. And yes, we were buying Bitcoin at 16 grand. It's now worth 42. I think it's a 100K asset. Yes, we made a ton of money on it. I just bought a supercar with it. But to me, that's not even what's important with the crypto. It's much more than just how do we trade it and how do we make some money. I think it's the future. I think a lot of businesses are going to be built around it. I mean, if you look at gold, housing, all these big assets we've been told are rising in value, they actually haven't. They've just kept up with basically inflation and dilution of our money. Mm-hmm. So for the gold has actually lost on this grand scheme of things. There's only two things that have beat the increased supply of money, and that's tech and crypto. Like those are the only two assets that have beat the increased supply of money.
For you, it was getting in because it was a way to secure yourself in the future from not to keep control of your money, essentially, because I think a lot of us don't really realize that, yes, we look at cash as like what you said, safe money, but how many people actually transact in cash anymore these days? I haven't touched cash in years, and the only time I ever do is like the tip of valet or something, and just out of ease. But even now with Venmo and all these digital ways of transferring money, but it makes sense that it I like it for the same reason, is that it is a way to make sure that you are always in control of your money, and at any point in time somebody can't hit the delete button on everything that you've built.
And peer to peer. I mean, I'm a really big fan. Look at the way the world is going. I almost own nothing. Like, I have no shame in renting. I'd spend 12 grand a month on rent. I really don't care. I don't care to own. I own all my cars, or yeah, the cars and the bikes, because interest rates are high. If I could get interest at 3 or 4% for the car I just bought, I would have. I just bought it cash because that's in Canada. You're getting 12% right now, and they're liquid. I could get rid of it tomorrow. And when I was fortunate to have a business that was doing really well, and I met some like wealthy people maybe 3 years ago. And when I saw how hard I was working, and these guys were buying Hummer H1s, Porsche 911 GT3s, some rare cars, some whatever, and they were making more money off the appreciation of the vehicles because they knew how to play that game, and especially during the money printing times there, then I was like busting, working. I started thinking very differently about money because I was born immigrant parents, blue collar, roofing, framing, oil rigs, all that stuff. I know how to work hard. That's no question about it. You and I are probably the same. But I didn't. That's like level one. It's like learn how to work really hard, grind, make money. That's level one. Then there's like these 20 other levels. And to me, the only next logical step was learn how to invest. And it wasn't in the S&P 500. It was in alternative assets and assets that had a much better potential return, because I'm not the guy who wants to work for the next 40 years to maybe hopefully, retire. It's just not my MO, never has been. I think that's such a backwards way of thinking. So yeah, crypto and DeFi, I saw asymmetrical returns in it, and I see potential. There's not many places you can double your money in 3 months, and like crypto and DeFi is one of those. And apart from that, I'm not a criminal, but I think entrepreneurs play on that line. We think a little differently, like who makes those rules? And one day you're going to jail for selling weed for 10 years, the next day it's legal and you can do it. Like, who makes these rules to say what's legal, what's not? It's really interesting paradigm we live in, or system we live in. And so I don't always go along with the narrative that the government may put out. And I just want a little more custody and control of my dollars. And I also want to be able to take my X amount of dollars, put it in my pocket, and be able to cross borders. And I want custody of that. I don't want it sitting in a bank where I have to. It's just crazy to me. So yeah, that's what piqued the interest. I'm hyper obsessive, so when I'm interested in something, I go all in. We spent 6 months in Mexico during COVID, and I studied at basically 10 hours a day because I can't sit on the beach for more than an hour. And then we started CryptoLabs from that as a bit of an experiment, and then the experiment turned into a business that turned into a company that now we got some big plans with acquisitions and tokenizing parts of businesses and giving people access to that. So it's been a fun little ride.
That's awesome. So you mentioned DeFi several times now. Can you explain what decentralized finance is and how it's different than the regular system?
Yeah, I think the banking, I think I have to give credit to Raoul Paul for this, because I think it landed for me when I was studying crypto. He's like, the banks have innovated in the last 50, 60, 80, 100 years. They've innovated ATMs, which isn't really big invention. It's just a little money printer or whatever. They've innovated visas, which is just in their best interest too, at 20% interest. And that's basically it. Maybe like e-banking, like you got your little e-banking, you can log in and do some stuff and move money around. But that's about it. And it's centralized, of course. So there's a ledger somewhere sitting in a bank with every balance and every transaction you've ever completed, and it's all centralized there. They can change it and put whatever they want in there, delete you from the system if you want. Decentralized finance is no different fundamentally than Bitcoin. Anyone listening should probably read the white paper on Bitcoin. If you own Bitcoin and you haven't read the white paper, there's a big, big problem. So just read the white paper a few times, because still a lot of it will go over my head, and just understand that now there's a ledger that's distributed across hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands of, we'll just call it computers, where there's no one central point of failure. And so fundamentally, decentralized finance rests on that foundation. And then on top of that, anything a bank can do, we can pretty much do in DeFi: lending, borrowing, adding liquidity to the markets, becoming a market maker, etc. Anything a bank can do, we can do in DeFi. The only difference is there's no really centralized authority that says yes or no. There's something called smart contracts, which if you're into this stuff, just write that down and Google it. Smart contracts, saying they're kind of a trustless contract that executes without someone saying yes or no. So I hope that makes sense.
So, yeah, essentially what I'm understanding is it's the same as a bank. Banks have ledgers, but Bank of America has their own ledger, Chase has their own ledger, Wells Fargo has their own ledger, and nobody gets access to it but the bank. So if they make a fat finger error when doing something with your account, and you went from having tens or hundreds of thousands in savings to zero, and that nobody's going to catch it except you, and now you got to go through this hassle of fighting it and all this stuff. Whereas with DeFi, you have all these computers you mentioned that all have the same ledger. Everyone can see it. So when there's a mistake made or something nefarious is trying to happen, it's very obvious, because you have to change that ledger across these thousands of computers, right?
Fundamentally, yep. And then I think it gives us access to, if you look at where most, like who makes the most amount of money, it'll be the people who own Wall Street, the people who own the banks. It's a very small percentile at the top. But we're not talking like make a couple $1,000,000. We're talking about the big, big dollars. Decentralized finance gives every player in the game an equal opportunity. Careful when I say that, because there is early movers and there's insider information, but it gives every market participant the same return based upon how much liquidity you provide. So you and I, you could put in 10 million because you're a player, and I could put in 1,000 because that's all I got to start with, but we're both making the same return in fees. And I'm simplifying the process here, but we can all become players in the market. You don't have to have $1 million. You don't have to be an accredited investor. That does raise problems, because now a lot of people are coming in not knowing what they're doing and getting wrecked in a way. But I think it's a net positive. There's 18-year-olds, dude, talking about, when I was 18, I was smoking weed and I was working at a trailer park. Like, I don't think I even thought about money until I was 27, when I was like, dude, I'm broke. Like, I need to figure this out. There's 18-year-olds who, because of crypto, are doing some trading. They're learning trading signals. They're understanding fractional reserve banking. And I'm like, and you're 18. And I think crypto has kind of introduced anyone who has a cell phone into, even if you lose $100 when you first get into it, I'm just like, what a great lesson to earn when you're 15. And I think with where gaming is going, where we have someone in the community who's deep in gaming. I understand it, but I'm not deep in it. But he's deep, and he's like, dude, it's crazy, because you're going to own your own skins and tanks, and you're going to earn money in the game, and you're trading, and it's just like that. That to me is really exciting. Young people are thinking about money very differently.
Even like the YouTube space, because you get to now, instead of YouTube owning the videos that you put out a lot of educational videos on this, but YouTube owns them. At any given point, they can take that off. And, and now you have, as we can begin to be able to tokenize things, you are going to be the owner of that content, which means nobody can take it off. Nobody can use it without your consent. And it becomes yours. And so for gaming, for artists, for creators, like, it's a big deal.
Big deal. And I think some people, it's never a black and white things. I'm like, well, now people can post anything and it can't get deleted. And I'm like, that is true. But I subscribe, and again, you can have different philosophies, but I really subscribe to like, I don't, I'm an adult and I can make my decisions on where I want it. So if I don't like some social network because it's all about unicorns and pots of gold, and I'm just like, I don't like it. I don't have to cancel everyone else because I don't like it. I can
Mm.
just move on to a community that's a little more aligned with me, and I can just leave that community and let them talk about whatever they want to talk about. So I do like that. Obviously, there's dangers to it. I think some, it's a space that we're always going to be figuring out. So I think it'll be community voted. So if there's some,
Yeah.
you know, violent type things that aren't allowed in that community, or there's strict rules, the community can quickly vote to remove it. And as long as the community votes 50% or more to remove it, it gets removed. And I'm like, that's a pretty easy way to solve that problem.
On that same note, a lot of people and even the media, and right now there's some big players, Janet Yellen, Jamie Dimon, they're speaking out big against crypto, that it's going to be the thing that destroys the world. And they're talking about how terrorists are using this to fund organizations and all these things that when you dive in, you understand like what they're saying isn't actually what's going on. And honestly, if people were to think about it, the US dollar funds more terrorism than any other currency in the
That's all of
world.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, like all terrorism is funded in USD. So if we want to point the finger at what's bad financially, it's USD. But
Totally.
what are some of the other misconceptions, and how has, because there used to be scams, there still is scams because things are evolving, and every time something's evolving, you get players, people that want to take advantage of the newcomers who don't know what's going on. What are some of the misconceptions, and how can people navigate through this new world?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest ones, isn't it? Is that it's used by criminals, which it is. If I was a criminal, I would most likely use Moneros or cryptocurrencies um, that are private type ledgers. So that's probably what I would do. Although the U.S. dollar is just as great, I could have a lot of it and just kind of it's the exact same thing. It's just
Yeah.
maybe it'd be a little easier. Most cryptocurrencies can be fully traced though. So if you think you're evading taxes, but you've ever input your name into any kind of exchange and have linked out to any one of your accounts, chances are really high that all of that is trackable, unless you're really, really good at what you do. So, like, you can't evade it. If most criminals, a lot of criminals in crypto get caught. They have special teams that can track all the transactions and try to find wherever the IP came from, whatever they're doing there. So, that's a misconception for sure. Um, Crypto is hard to use, which is one of our biggest obstacles right now. So, a lot of people say like crypto's kind of not user friendly. I think
Mm.
it's getting a lot better. Um, I think another misconception is that like all the hacks that happen, which do happen. So like you just have to make sure your security is tight. I would spend just as much, if not more, time researching how to keep my crypto safe on YouTube than researching which cryptos to buy. At least when you first start, ensure that your cryptos are safe because yep, your wallets can get drained if you hook up to the wrong smart contract and give them different permissions. They can take all your stuff, and that's not cool.
Mm.
But um, yeah, I'm so deep in the space that I guess I never really look at the misconceptions because I see it for what it is. It's a very early technology, like the early days of the internet, that has a lot of bugs, a lot of scams, a lot of issues, a lot of problems. It does. But how exciting is it to be in something early that's developing by really freaking smart people? I was just talking to Aperture Finance team a few days ago who kind of developed a pretty cool tool for liquidity providing and liquidity farming. And they're just like, the space is attracting people who could choose to work at SpaceX or launching rockets to Mars or exploring the deepest parts of the ocean, all this crazy stuff. And they're choosing to work in DeFi and build out different protocols and projects. It's like the early days of the internet. So it's attracting a lot of talent. But it is early, and hence why I think there's an opportunity in it. Like it takes a little studying to understand what you're doing, and where even money sits. Like a lot of people think their money sits in their MetaMask or in their ledger and they carry it around, but it's like it's on the blockchain. Those are just your keys to access your funds that are stored on this public ledger, basically. So It takes a little studying, but yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, it got close enough. Um, I know that with CryptoLabs Research, you guys are big into DeFi, farming, passive investing. Um, can you walk us through that, explain what that means, and how you're using these liquidity pools to make money?
Yeah. Um, Side note, passive income is one of the highest ranked keywords on YouTube, and so we highly leverage that to get the views. Basically, we're marketing, get the views, get the clicks in whatever way you can, and then really start sharing through your content the reality of the situation. So everything I do, for me personally, and some people can disagree, but everything I do in crypto, whether it's leveraged income or we can call it passive income, and I'll explain that. There is true passive income in crypto, but a lot of it does take a little work, especially up front, to set it up and learn it. I do it to fund my bull run portfolio, we call it. And that bull run portfolio, I think, presents the biggest opportunity for people. So just like a regular business or life, you want to cash flow, take that cash flow and move it into some investments. So you want to create it, you want to multiply it, of course. Then once you start hitting tens and hundreds of millions, you want to protect it and kind of
Mm.
make sure it's safe. So we use yield farming. We think of it like businesses. So you're building these little businesses and these little kind of cash flow things, and each one is a little bit different, and that funds your investment portfolio, which could 4, 5, 10x, 25x, depending how you build it. So yeah, and yield farming fundamentally is you're providing liquidity, you're becoming a market maker in the markets. So you could get on chains or dexes, and if someone's watching this, it's no different than basically playing in the stock market, except instead of betting on Apple, you're kind of like providing liquidity. You're providing liquidity into that stock. And so as people are buying and selling Apple, you're getting paid the beautiful fees that Wall Street gets paid, except it's not Wall Street getting paid, it's you. Now you can double that down by holding assets you love while earning fees on the trading that's going on behind the scenes. And you're writing
Mm.
price depreciation of those assets if they're in correlated pairs. So it just depends how you play it. So yeah, fundamentally, when we say passive, it's a it's because it's a super sexy, highly searched keyword that every time we use it, it gets 10 times more views and 10 times more traffic. But I'll say leveraged, or I'll say semi-passive, just to be fair to the audience. Um, and we calculated if you can make $11 an hour in DeFi, so if your portfolio can spit you $11 an hour and DeFi works 24/7 for you, that's 100K a year. We've had a few members hit that, but even $1 an hour in your DeFi portfolio. So if you have a few liquidity pool, or if you have a few positions, or if you have a lot of money and you're watching this, you could be in single-sided staking or even liquid staking and kind of leverage what you can do with liquid staking. $1 an hour is $11 a day, or $24 a day, which will be just shy of 10K a year, which isn't life-changing money, but it's a cool place to start to supplement different streams of income. And that 10 grand, we're not even done with it yet, because if you're investing in some assets that you believe in, we'll just call it Bitcoin, but maybe you're going down into smaller market cap stuff that you believe in, maybe some AI tokens, maybe some gaming tokens and GameFi, you could see another 10x on that.
So I want to make sure I'm clear on this too. So you're taking your money, you're buying into a protocol or some sort of um, what's it? Is it called a protocol?
Yeah, we'll call it, we'd call it protocol, but yeah, you may be investing in some coins and tokens or on a decentralized exchange. And for anyone watching this, maybe you could Google Uniswap would be a good one to start, and maybe PancakeSwap. And
Mm.
so those are decentralized exchanges, Uniswap being by far the largest. Another great tool for viewers is DeFi Llama, where you can actually look at different categories and look at different protocols and dexes and have a look at how much total value locked, meaning how much money is in that protocol. The more money usually means it's more trusted for the most part. And you can find these dexes, let's just call it Uniswap. And on Uniswap, you can look at different pairs that you can provide liquidity. So Uniswap has, I think, well over $10 billion in liquidity. You could provide liquidity into something like, in my instance, ARB and ETH. Those are two assets I really love. I love ARB, I love ETH. I've done my technical analysis on it. I understand the assets. I can provide liquidity to ARB and ETH and earn. I think that pool is earning me 0.5% per day, and that sounds impressive because there's a lot of volume going through that DEX. But those are in fees, and then I earn more ARB and I earn more ETH because of it. I'm just using that example. Please, no one do it. There's thousands of pairs you can do. I'm just using this as an example. But you're providing liquidity, and so if you provide liquidity into this pool, and then I wake up one morning and I'm like, hey, I should buy some ARB, or maybe I'll sell my ETH, and I transact on Uniswap, and I swap some ARB for some ETH, or I swap some ETH for some ARB. You're getting paid a fee for that because you're the one that provided the liquidity. And I'm simplifying it, of course, but fundamentally, I mean, that's as simple as it gets. Then there's other things that happen, different boosts and different. So if there's a lot of volume flowing through right now, Solana, I think we're up. I think it's $85 or something, where I think a few months ago it was like literally $18 or something. But Solana has a lot of volume going through it. And on Solana, one of the biggest dexes is Orca. So Orca is a decentralized exchange, and we were earning almost 1% per day on Solana in USDC because so many people are buying Solana and so many people are selling it against USDC, which is just a stable coin. And it was earning almost 1% per day in Solana, basically. So we'll put Solana and USDC up as liquidity. We're earning a ton of Solana, and then we're taking that SOL and we're stacking for the bull run. Please, anyone watching this, research impermanent loss so you fully understand it, because it's not all sunshine. It's not as simple as I'm making it to be. You do face the risk of impermanent loss. So just study that. Once you understand impermanent loss, you can navigate your way better through liquidity pools.
And so to help explain this even further, Citadel is one of the biggest market makers in the regular stock market. And so for an exchange to happen, say you wake up and you decide, I want to buy one stock of Apple, there has to be somebody selling one stock of Apple. And if there's not, then you're buying from Citadel. And they're the market maker, and they'll hold on to that. They'll either sell you one or hold on to one, depending on whether you're buying or selling, until there's somebody else to make the other end of that deal. And They get a fee for that. They get the transaction fee, especially when you're doing this on Apple and all these companies, and you're doing this, even if it's a 0.001%, but if you do it a billion times a day, that's a lot of money. And so these exchanges, these market makers don't exist in the crypto space. And so it gives us as normal people the opportunity to be the Citadel of the crypto world.
Beautifully
essentially.
Said. I'll be stealing that. That's beautifully said. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about CryptoLabs Research and what programs do you guys offer? What do you do? How are you helping out your students? Explain a little bit about that, please.
Sure. From a business perspective, I ran a few things in the past, but most of it was the higher ticket stuff, so like $8,000, $12,000, $18,000, typical model back in the day, sales team, blah blah blah. And I thought I had freedom. I was like, dude, I'm so free. I figured this game out, making a ton of money, blah blah blah. COVID happened, and I went down to Mexico, and my life was just turned upside down. Couldn't really run the team. I wasn't working my 15 hours a day like I used to. I was working 2 hours a day. Everything fell apart. And I made a decision to stay true and in alignment with who I say I am, which apparently I was lying because I wasn't as free as I thought I was on a lot of different things, including banking and including like access to my money, blah, blah, blah. So, which is why I fell in love with crypto. So I spent 6 months basically on a beach in Mexico, Tulum, Playa, traveled to Belize a little. And how I made my money at the time was crypto. Crypto was pumping like crazy, so any dummy could make money back in the day. I thought I was smart. Had a ton of cash, took it out of the company, and I was multiplying my money like crazy. That paid for Mexico, that paid for moving, that paid for all of that. While doing that, I had some family members reaching out and some friends being like, I don't know what you're doing, but you're making money. Could you manage my money for me? Could you start some kind of fund? And few nights of thinking about it, I realized that's not what I want to do. Like, I'm not going to be holding family's money and being responsible for that. And I don't love money enough to do that. So I told them I could show them what I'm doing and like help them set up wallets and help them buy a little crypto and show them how to do it. I found a lot of joy in that. And then Colin, who was part of my business, my last business, I kind of talked with him and I'm like, dude, if we started something, would you be down to help? He said yes. And I didn't want to sell coaching programs or products or anything like that. We thought if we sold something at $100 a month and we made the experience as if someone paid 5 grand for it or 10 grand for it, and if they don't like what we do, we don't have to deal with crap and we don't have to deal with refunds and we don't have to deal with bullshit. I just don't want to deal with clients. They can just cancel right away and they're gone. And so we'll find the people we love to work with and the people who don't like us or don't align with it. They can just leave. They're down $97. I can sleep well at night for that. So we kind of started building CryptoLabs, and I said if we can get 100 members, we'll keep running it because that'll kind of pay your salary and it'll be worth running and it'll be fun. If we can't, then we'll shut it down. And I think within the first 2 or 3 months, we had 100 members sign up. Then we had 200, then we had 500. Now we're at 600. We're going to close the door at 1,000. So it's just been kind of a side project that turned into a really, really fun experiment turned into a business. And also building the team has been a lot of fun because I get access to really brilliant minds. It's still $100 a month. It's still canceling. It's actually $97. Cancel any time. And it's grown a lot. So when we first started, we just had one kind of main group. Now we have the 6-figure DeFi challenge, which is more of like a course and a challenge people can go through. Make your first $3 a day. That's for someone who's just brand new to this stuff, who wants to get into their first liquidity pool and kind of learn about crypto. $10 a day, $25, 50, 100. We do that to gamify the experience and give people something to look forward to. We've got crypto DeFi educational program in there. We have instructors for each one of the instructors in the team help in each one of the categories. We have a technical analysis group now that David runs, so he teaches TA and how to read charts. We've got almost a live call every single day. We're starting to attract bigger names who are giving kind of guest appearances in the platform. So we just had Aperture Finance, and we're trying to get our members exposure to really awesome teams so they can learn from them. And because the model works so well, we can still keep the price at $97 a month because the more members we get, the more money we have to spend back into growing this thing. So I think we'll close the doors at 1,000. That'll give us enough cash flow to keep building the team and bring on some really, really awesome additions. So yeah, and it's kind of member run. So some members get upset. I mean, I'm talking like 1 in every 100 gets upset with how many forms they have to fill in, but I'm really big on member feedback. So when you join us, you fill out a form. When you're with us for a few weeks, the VAs reach out and try to get information of like what could be better, and any suggestions we put into the pile. And we take the best suggestions and we kind of make that our next milestone for what we want to improve in the community. And and like we do run another program, but that's by invite only, and that's members who are starting to earn that $100 or $150 per day. We invite them into our fast track program, which is more of like a one-on-one access because they can really start leveraging their money to make a lot more than they thought they could. But yeah, that's not something we push or sell actively. It's just our community or membership.
So you're in your community, people can sign up $97 and they can start to learn how to start making leveraged income.
We'll call it passive leveraged. How to leverage crypto and DeFi to not just buy and hold Bitcoin, which is an okay strategy. I just think it's scraping the surface of what's possible. And yeah, we have one dude I was blown away by the range, because some people have $1,000 and they just want to learn this stuff because they know this is going to be a skill that they can learn. So they're not expecting to get rich off $100,000. If they could add a 0 to it for the next bull run, that's a massive win. Okay, cool. You're going to turn $1,000 into 10,000. That's your mission. And we have one dude who's got, it's probably a lot more now, but last time I talked with him, maybe 2 months ago, it was a $13 million portfolio. And he's in there learning some stuff because he just bought a bunch of Bitcoin ETH from I think he sold a company years ago and sold some real estate and had a ton of money and just bought Bitcoin ETH. So we have like people with $1,000 and people with 13 million. That's the extreme, of course, all in one community who mingle and learn from each other. And then took a long break from coaching. I still will here and there, but it's such as the owner of the business, which I think is really important, to love your business and love what you do, because you'll show up so much more powerfully and you'll come up with better ideas and you'll improve the product. I'm in love with what was built because I don't feel like I have bosses, which you can sometimes when you have clients or you're doing agency work or you're doing something like that. We have students and the community filters itself out really quick. So we have someone
Mhm.
join who's not a good fit. Within 30 days, they're gone, which is totally okay. And on good terms, it's just not for them. And the people who stay, it just keeps getting stronger because it's all very like-minded people who, like just the support in there, apart from just us. Like when someone asks a question within a few minutes, typically it's answered by someone with way more experience than them, whether it's the guy with 13 million bucks or it's one of the instructors or whatever. So it's kind of cool to see that growing.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I kind of want to, if you're all right with it, I want to shift gears a little bit because I know that prior to this, you had a coaching business. I've been following you for a while. I was I was kind of confused on when you took that trip to Mexico for 6 months. I was like, I wonder what Lucas is doing, because I saw you in Lucas or in Mexico, and I would be curious if you don't mind sharing, hearing more about coaching, what happened, and some of the maybe some of the dark sides that people don't think,
Sure.
because coaching is one of the biggest, like, fastest growing industries right now.
It's fast.
Everyone's jumping into it, and you took it and you did something great with it, but you got to a point where you're like, you can see it when you talk about it, you're kind of like,
Yeah, I was burnt. I was burnt and
yeah.
unfulfilled because so even in this current business right now, I had a chat with the team maybe 2 weeks ago saying something has to change because, and this is very common when you're growing a business. You hear it all the time, but it's like I used to spend 8 hours a day doing DeFi. So like I was on the computer doing DeFi. And then as the business grew, now I've got a lot of things to run and I'm not as involved in the DeFi. We've got a wicked team who instruct and help and I'm like, I just really want to get back to doing DeFi. So what has to go off my plate so I can go back to doing the thing I love? So with the coaching world, when I was coaching, I loved it. I could take on a few clients and I did fitness coaching before I did any kind of marketing or business coaching and I loved it. At some point, you start maxing out, so you start building a team and eventually you're not involved in the sales process, you're not involved in the delivery process, and you have KPIs or you have some form of feedback so you can get an idea of where your clients are at, where the business is at. And I just started getting really burnt. We were hitting 100K months. We had a lean and mean team, but every day was about the same thing. It was about sales. How do we make more money? We gotta get sales. It was about retention. It was about upserves. It was just about like the business side of it all, the
Mm.
money side of it all, which is fine. It's just not me. So I think I got burnt from that. And then I also, when I actually started, at first it was okay. When I started looking at client success rates, they weren't that great. And I was like, well, let's improve this client success rate. And like, how can we deliver better content? How can we deliver better coaching? And it's like, we're doing literally the best we can. So I started looking at the client. And because coaching was booming, everyone wanted to become a coach. And a lot of people were joining without actual experience in what they wanted to coach on and teach on. And the salespeople would obviously take their money. I was happy with the P&L, so I wasn't questioning it. When I actually sat down and had a chat with myself and God or the universe and was like, is what I'm doing an actual net positive? It took me a while to actually come up to the answer of like, I don't think it is. I think it's serving us really well, and I think it's serving a few people who actually have experience. So we have a choice to make. Do we only work with people who have a ton of experience and kind of want to grow from there? And the answer to me was kind of no, I'm not. I don't want to. Lately, I've been thinking about maybe getting back into it, but only working with like if you're making $1 million, obviously you've proven that you know what you're doing. Let's
Mm.
find ways to maybe get you out of the business a little bit more and find ways to find the joy and the passion back in your business. That's something I'd love to do. But yeah, so I think it was just kind of a decision to say no, letting go of the team. We had one team member that I did not transition well either. It was kind of like, dude, I'm freaking done, and everyone's fired, and I'm gone. That said, like I did not transition that well. Burned some relationships in the process. Learned a lot from it. and just made a commitment to when we build the next business, which I didn't know what it was going to be, we were going to run it very, very different. And I wasn't going to be the central um, uh, decision maker, so to speak. So now the business, I think we have a 30 or 1 hour team call once a week to go over some KPIs, and that's about it. Um, I'll if someone on the team asks me, hey, what do you think? Or what do you think we should do here and here? I'm just like, what do you think? And usually I'm just like, just do whatever you think. Like, just follow this decision making framework that we've all agreed on. And it's been a big joy to run. Um, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question. So yeah, it was a few months where I was super. Your identity gets wrapped up in when you do something for so long. Your identity gets wrapped up in it, and when all of it kind of started, the foundations that weren't that solid apparently started cracking. I spent a lot of time not working, and it was clear to me that I used work as a band-aid to not face some deeper issues in my life. So when I wasn't working and I was sitting on a freaking beach in Mexico, I had to confront a lot of that. And what a better place to be than like Tulum, which is like a beautiful spiritual center to feel that. Uh, yeah, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of sitting on the roof in the little house we rented in Tulum and being like, why the F did you do this? To kind of come to how is this working for me? To where is this guiding me? And looking back, it was inevitable. That's the way it had to be. But at the time, it was a little difficult. When you lose a business, I think not lose, I'll say that, yeah, when you start losing, that really defines who you actually are, because it's easy to be pretty happy when you're winning, but when you're losing, that's when Tony Robbins says that, isn't it? It's like when you're winning, you don't question, but it's like when you're losing, you start asking different questions, and pretty human experience, I guess.
What was driving you building the coaching business? What drove you to the success that you did had that ultimately felt empty, and how have you shifted to what's driving you now?
Sure. I started with loving to help people, and also wanting to make money. I was working as a personal trainer at the time, and I was charging $80 an hour, which was pretty good for what I was doing. And I sold packages, and I was running. It's got to be 8 or 9 years ago. You could run Facebook ads to a messenger. So you would run ads locally, geo-targeting locally, and when people clicked on it, it would pop up in your message, and you could converse with that lead, have them come in, and basically kind of close them as clients. So I was running ads in Vancouver, population of I think 1.4 in Greater Vancouver, and I was reaching 1 million people a month through my Facebook ads. So I was super busy, and I was capped. I was coming into the gym at like 5 a.m., turning the lights on, working with clients. There used to be hour-long sessions, but I did 45-minute sessions, so I had 15 minutes to eat, so I could do clients back to back, 10 hours straight, 7 days a week, and my income was capped at around 100 grand a year. And I was like, I either build a gym, hire people, or the margins didn't make sense to do that. So that's kind of I was about to do it, and then I had a trainer in the city reach out to me and say, could you show me what you're doing? And I'm like, sure. He's like, how much do you charge? I was like, $1,000. He's like, okay. And so I got $1,000 transaction to work with him for like a month to show him some stuff, and that turned into an ongoing thing. And I was like, I'm making 10 times more helping in marketing because it's B2B and it's a different investment than I am personal training. Maybe I'll just do that. And so transition to that. So obviously the driver was money, but I had a lot of fulfillment helping people figure out their funnels and figure out their ads in the early days. So that's kind of how it started. It was just kind of like, meh. And then I joined a mastermind where sales was really pushed. Like the badge of honor was how much top line revenue your business could make. And I sipped the Kool-Aid, and we just started mass scaling mode without maybe thinking, like, do we actually want to grow this fast? What's healthy growth rate? Where do we actually want to get to? I just didn't know any better. So I'm like, let's just grow as big as we can. We went to 100K months really quick. And it got maybe 3, 4, 5 months of that. I was like, all we're talking about here is money. Like, this is all we're talking about is money. And what happened to, and we had a great delivery team and all that. I just fell out of touch with the business completely. And if I'm not probably like all of us, if I'm not engaged, actively engaged and excited about what I'm building, you could give me $100 million and I'd be depressed. I'm like, it's the money won't make you happy. So I think I just kind of lost my excitement for building what's next. And if you don't have that, all your competitors will just gobble you up because they're all driven and hungry to innovate. And I just lost my drive to innovate, and we didn't have the right team to innovate without me. So with CryptoLabs, I could take 2 weeks off because I need a break and I want to maybe reconnect with the vision. But our innovation is still being driven on a daily basis. So yeah, the business was the Lucas show, and I just vowed to never do that again. Plus, it wasn't sellable. So I explored selling it, and it was like not sellable because you're starting the month at zero every month. And so I'm like, we're going to build a business that, sure, the marketing might be driven by me, especially when we first get going, but the logo, the emails, it's going to be recurring revenue. It's going to, I could eventually be replaced by the team who helps with marketing on YouTube. Maybe it's just a wicked news channel on YouTube, whatever. And I want it sellable. So just in case I don't feel like doing it anymore, I could sell it. And so we keep tight bookkeeping. Like we built it from day one to be sellable in case we wanted to. Maybe some big crypto company who wants an awesome user base might want to buy us. And if the number was right, not now, but maybe in the future, maybe I would. I don't know. The option there is, I think, important to build.
I think there's a book called Built to Sell, and that's
it's a really good
all
book.
it talks about. Yep. It is literally like, think about 10 years from now, how are you going to exit this and then build that company?
Well, yeah, like, are you going to be creating, like, I'm just being real here. Am I going to be 50 creating YouTube content? Like, probably not. Like, I don't really want to. I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. So yeah, we've been putting a lot of money aside. Well, a lot is relative, but a lot. We're at a position where we could buy a few businesses. And so I've been studying anything to do with acquisition, basically building a network of people who do it for a living. And I'm pretty sure that'll be the next step, and it's going to be ingrained with CryptoLabs. So we have the DBAs, and we still got to set the LLC for underdog acquisitions, but it's going to be, we'll give our members access to help with a small portion of the deal. So maybe we'll put 25% of the deal aside for members who want to invest in it. And each deal will be structured differently. Some will be for the monthly income of it, but I think a lot of our deals will be boomer type businesses that their marketing really, really sucks. And they've been just running a word of mouth business for 30 years. We can go in there, bring it to the digital age, turn it around, sell it, and then our investors would get paid out. That said, I don't like to, just like I don't like to have clients, I don't like to have bosses. So we can fund these 100% by ourselves. We don't need investors, but we can put a small amount of allocation just for our members who want to maybe get involved in entrepreneurship a little bit more. I think it would be a cool gateway, and then we can offer it just to members, which also gets us around some legal things because it's more of a community thing. We're not selling to the public. So,
Lucas, this has been great. I do know you have a special gift for our listeners today, the free crash course on crypto investing. Could you share just a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I was going through it 2 days ago because I'm like, I think our website needs some updating because I haven't touched it in so long. So I was going through that course, and it still holds really true. It goes through the fundamentals of Bitcoin and blockchain and a lot of the early questions we had on this podcast. And one of the updates we're having in that course kind of thing, that there's 4 videos, maybe an hour and a half of content, is adding some of the more relevant YouTube videos that talk more strategies on yield farming and all that. So it's always evolving a little bit. And then one thing we're going to be adding is monthly kind of mastermind calls. Those are going to be free. And for anyone who's interested in this world, they can come get to know our team, ask some questions, see if they like us or not. They are conversion events. So if people want to join us after those things, it's literally $97 a month, the easiest sell ever. Try it. You don't like it, you can go. We have really good retention. So if a member makes it past the first month in terms of like they actually like it, they stay with us for a really long time. If they don't like it, or they're like, I don't know, crypto and DeFi is not for me, but I learned some stuff and that's cool. And everyone who exits, we ask the question, was the 97 worth it? And I don't have the exact number, but I'd say 1 in every 50 say no. And when we dive in deeper, they're just like, oh, I just didn't have time to use it. Like I didn't really log in. So I think for $97, it's a really good deal. So we don't do too much front end marketing because it's almost a waste of time. We're just like, if you want to try it, come try it. And if you don't, it's cool. We got a YouTube channel. Play with it. Check it out.
Awesome. Well, if anyone is interested in signing up for that crash course, I'll make sure to drop the links down below in the
Cool.
description. And then, Lucas, where can people go to find you, learn more about you, connect with you?
I think YouTube. Twitter's a little toxic, so stay off of there. We use Twitter to do our paid marketing on. It's crazy. Twitter's crazy. You should see my DM inbox. I've never experienced anything like it. And it's always the people with the cat profile or like the, it's always those, I don't know. It's weird. I get death threats all the time and I have no idea why. But YouTube is a good place for it. I've been having a lot of fun building the YouTube channel. I don't know why. But so YouTube, CryptoLabs Research.
Awesome. And I'll make sure to link down below to that in the show notes as well.
Sweet.
Lucas, it has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on the Life Edge podcast. I can't say thank you enough.
Thank you, sir. You're a great interviewer.